The healing notion has been heard and shall be addressed here with the squaring of the nodes, these nodal corners. You all know the square, you're familiar with the stability of the structure, which underpins the the pyramid. The triangular structure is a square. And the four nodes for healing is stability, safety, structure. These are where rituals are born. If you are familiar with rituals, they are meant to stabilize the environment. The altar is just so. The body is just so. The body is your temple. Imagine, if you will, the floor as a square, and as you rise up to the crown, you can see this through the imagery of a pyramid, through the chakra, through lights, through energy pouring through the crown, reaching into all corners. For those corners may appear far away and in darkness at times. That is when the light pours through, and you may direct light workers. You work with light. Your growing awareness of light is crucial, for this is the cradle through which you heal yourselves and the planet and those around you. This is not a fight for immortality. That is not what is at stake. For mortal is incorporated within immortal. We have it backwards very often, you on earth. The immortal is the standard affairs, state of affairs. Your mortality is built into I mortal. Your mortality is a portal onto awareness of I mortal, immortal. Your immortality comes from the light which reaches into all recesses of your being. You are now in a position to appreciate that light of awareness. You breathe in light, you exhale light, and those darker recesses, perhaps you feel pain. The pain may be emotional, it may be spiritual, it may be existential, it may be cancer, as you call it. Whatever form this takes, breathe light into this misinformation, if you will. Shed truth onto the formations.
May I ask a question?
Of course.
We think we have a good understanding on Earth of how to maintain the physical body with nutrition and exercise, etc. What isn't so well understood is how to maintain in a good way our energy body. Could you give us some pointers or instruction on how to maintain a healthy energy system, the energetic body?
The key to this door lies with consciousness, with energy. Consciousness is energy. There is no dispute. Thought is energy. You may, depending on your levels, for everyone has a different perspective, electromagnetic, electro, quantum, however you envision this energy, it is best to work with energy as a palpable. There is plasticity to energy when working with the energy body, much like clay in your worlds of 3D. You form, in the energy body, you formulate. There is a continuum here. You learn through clay, you learn through formations as a child that your input does, in fact, influence conversations, moods, those around you. You create, you destroy. There is really no fundamental difference between that approach and the approach to the energy body. However, the source with which you work with energy body is within you. This is the key transit, that you are no longer relying on external forces. You are now formulating your own world, your own energy. And this is often difficult for those who have been inured to external forces. Very often, diagnostics are external. There are external machines at work for diagnostics. This is not a problem. However, it is important to maintain your awareness that those machines are entering from outside. And once their inquisition comes inside, that is your world. It is important for you to maintain your integrity of this formulation, for this is immortal, this formulation. This formulation of energy bodies will long survive any machine.
When we pass over, when we die, does the energy body that we currently have with us here on Earth come with us, or is that part of the physical structure? And
It
does it get left behind? Does it die? Does it disintegrate?
both, both. There is a transition, certainly. There is an energy dress that you address certain dynamics of energy when you enter this physical body. This physical body has its demands, just as a machine has its demands, just as any organic body has its demands. And that interface with the demands of and expectations and pleasures and loves and inordinate abilities of this body, this is what you came in to experience. And pain, disappointment, surprise, betrayal, reactions to, these are all part of what you have looked forward to encountering. So this interface, yes, that will be left. That will be left. However, once the transition from that firmament has been accomplished, then you will have a very different interaction, for you no longer work with that interface.
Our energy body is like an interface with our spirit, with our
Oh no, reverse.
no,
Your energy body enters into the physical interface,
right,
right?
okay, yeah.
Okay, so that this is how evolution happens, because the energy body enters into the material form, And
Hmm.
it is the energy body that evolves, that moves, that mm, expands, that enables the transformations of physical matter. Physical matter without the energy body is inconceivable.
Okay. So you stated earlier that to maintain the energy body, we use our mind, consciousness.
Yes.
Are there any physical components that power this energy? Is the heart or the brain? Are there physical components involved in this, or is this purely a conscious machine?
Yes.
Yes.
This is a very nuanced question. The apparatus that you have received in this physical body is the heart and the brain, primarily. You also work with bacteria, you work with viruses, there are a myriad of
Mm,
dynamic forces with which the energy is engaged, and they themselves are energy.
mm,
So the discernment about where you begin and end an energy, this is a murky area while
yeah.
you inhabit the material form that you have. That is necessary because should you seek to sever that form, you would no longer be alive. So it is important that that blending between material and non-material, in other words, energy, is not quite clear. That is where you sit. That is your seat for this life. However, at the same time, while you sit in this seat of your body, this material body, you can know that electrical impulses do operate via your heart. These electrical impulses, the pulse, this is a key mm, characteristic of your incarnation. Sue is now sitting at that pulse point. She is exploring that pulse point. She is curious. She wants to know. And so she shall explore this field, this electrical field. She has been doing so her whole life. It is only now that she is getting, shall we say, deep into the materiality of that pulse point. The brain is another point. Many of you are familiar with the notion of an antenna. Your brain is located at the top of your pyramidal structure, the crown. This is not an accident. The pulses, there are two forms of pulses, if you will. The heart pulse is a dynamic form which can be measured with machinery currently in your era. The brain is another heart, if you will, with current. The brain is much like the heart in that it taps into currents. The heart taps into electrical currents. The brain taps into consciousness, which forms a different current. You are coming closer to the current with quantum, with entanglement, with AI. You are fearful of this current, which is understandable with something so vast and so misunderstood. The labels which you have affixed to this other current are innumerable, and millions have died in the names of these affectations of imagery which one may associate with this consciousness. However, we digress. Perhaps bring us back to your question.
We put a lot of focus, certainly in this group, on the chakra system.
Mm,
That's where we put our attention
mm,
when we actually invoke communication.
mm,
Do we have a correct understanding of our energy system from the perspective of chakras?
mm. Absolutely.
It
Absolutely.
is accurate.
You are not alone. This identification has been aware since millennia from your Vedic Indian civilizations, Harappa, nucleic acid. There are streams of knowledge which connect with this. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the Vedic understanding, which is
Mm.
something like 108 energy centers,
Mm.
is quite accurate. And we
Yes,
focus in this group on the seven major ones.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. It is not obfuscation. The tendency amongst humans often, because you are in this materiality, there is a tendency to split hairs, to go into the 0 minus 1, the integers which split and divide. This is an evolutionary track indeed. However, from the perspective of consciousness, keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
There need not be such, we talk and heard of, Jonathan would appreciate this, the angels on the head of a pin. How many? There is no need to go so deeply into the mm, strictures, the stitches of time. This is not necessary. Should you find a home there, that is a path for sure. But the dynamic of this group with which you bring the minds and hearts of your members and those around you, the effect of this joining and inculcating with light is far beyond the minutiae
Mm-hmm.
of an approach.
Thank you.
Are we speaking to Colum?
Yes, you may say
Eh,
so.
Thank you. I'd like to know, along the lines of what Carl was speaking of, if a person is ill, physically ill, or heartsick, is there a way that a person can, let's say, organize their consciousness to get better or be
Beautiful,
healed? Or
beautiful,
is the physical stuff, for example, is that just your Akashic record? That is what you are supposed to experience. It cannot be changed.
beautiful. There is nothing that cannot be changed. This is important, for this is the power of consciousness. It's the power of energy. You call it magic, magus. The word you used is a beautiful word, heart sick, heart sick. That is a word that transposes. There is heart sick. In other words, an aorta, a ventricle. However, there is also heart sick, a gloom, a sadness, a weighing down, a hopelessness. So the heart is a powerful vehicle. We might start there, begin there. The structures you asked for, structures of some sort, we would advise this notion of a bed. You tend to have a long rectangular structure for a bed for some of you. We would advise that your bed be made into a square, as close to a square as possible. The narrowness of some of your beds does not support the heart healing, the stability of an energetic structure which can support your emotional, spiritual, and physical healing.
May I ask a question?
Of course.
It sounds a lot like feng shui, where, it's not just the bed itself, but the positioning and what's around the bed to continue a positive flow of energy through the room. Is
Beautiful.
there anything that
Beautiful.
you might suggest would be a very nice addition to that in the room?
Beautiful. 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 You have expanded your awareness, yes, of this square. This square. The square itself is a force. And given that, then we reach, we stretch, we evolve, we move beyond that square into a larger square, perhaps the square of a room. Now the square is expanding. And so when you work with this feng shui, this is the interface of energy with the terrestrial colors, images, the Gokan. This is the word for five senses, the five senses. Now that you have moved beyond the lie down, the rest, as you stand, you are aware of a room, and therefore there are colors, there are windows, most emphatically, windows. There is hopefully green. There is nature. This is an exploration that each of you can take, and with love and hope, for this is your room. This is your ability to gestate within. And this is a practice with which you can expand gestation from simply lying down in your bed to walking. We would advise, if possible, to walk at least 3 lines around the bed. It would be ideal, perhaps, to have some space between the wall and the bed at the head to allow movement. But Feng Shui is absolutely a time-honored tradition, working with to have mirrors, to not have mirrors. This is a valid inquiry, which we wholeheartedly support.
Thank you so much.
This has been very verify. We are verifying your work, for it is good work. Good work. You have our support whenever you need us, whenever you call for us. We are here.
Thank you. Bless you.
Very much appreciated. Thank you. We're very grateful.
Could I ask a further question again? Just speaking about those who are sick in the body, is there any, aside from the idea of the bed and sort of feng shui, is there a way that a person can, let us say, rearrange their consciousness so that they can become well?
This is a delicate question. We would advise an image, perhaps take a square, imagine, if you will, 4 nodal points at each corner. You have used this in shaman work. We have used this. This is a common image, the directions, the compass, if you will. Call this a health compass. You can draw a line from each nodal point to the center, and there is a center point at which triangles form in the center of the square. This occupation of that center, this is the centrifugal force, whether you wish to expand or whether you wish to incur connection within yourself. This portal, if you will, this dot, this is the bindu, this is the aperture through which you connect with Colum, with source, that center point. So therefore we hesitate to use the word rearrange for this point, whether you choose to be aware of that center or not. It is always there. There is no need to redo anything, for that is the basis of reality, if you will. These functions of force, spirals, squares, lines, triangles. This is basic geometry which underpins the entire cosmos. It is a matter for you as human to use heart and mind to source that spot, if you will. Now, perhaps perhaps there are in one's life, you may have something that blocks that line towards, if you imagine this image, this that blocks those lines of force from channeling into that center space. If this is the case, it may be a shadow. It may be non-material, it may be material, it may be lives, it may be expectations, it may be reactions. That is for you to determine, because you occupy that square. That is your square. That is your incantation, if you will, that has brought you into this body. So that exploration of the square is what enables you to find that center point. Does this make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
When I am regressing people to their past lives,
Mm.
I will call in spirit, and spirit will go and heal physical and psychological problems.
Mm.
Can you tell me how is that working?
That is very often imaged as an external form. You have in imagery of Trinity, the Holy Spirit, if you will, is at bottom, a triangle. It is a flame. It is a force. This is what we were speaking with Carl. That interface is tricky. This is tricky. This is why you're here. You're exploring, as Sue is exploring, the interface between conscious energy, the energy of consciousness, and the materiality. So the materiality of your being, because it is dense and because it functions, shall we say, in a bit of a different dimension, there is a sense in which there is an external source of energy which enters your denser form. This is could be appropriate. However, in this group, we want you to understand that there is no entering. There is no exiting. It is all one. Now, there is a habit within your species of receiving. You work with duty, you work with favors, you work with loyalty, you work with all sorts of modalities of policing energy forms. And this is fine. This is fine. This is why you're here. Moreover, however, we would like you to know that that spirit is within each of you. Dave, you use skillful means. This is a word you may be associating with, to enable a connection. However, at bottom, what is happening is you are igniting what is there, and you are doing so in the imagery with which your client, if you will, can work with. Does this make sense?
Sure, I think you're saying it is they who are connecting. I'm
Yes.
just facilitating. It's
Yes.
not an outside force.
No, it is not. It is not. You are the midwife, if you will, for enabling life to come through and be born as a baby, right? Do we say, oh, to a mother, you didn't do that? Spirit burst. You do say that, do you not? You do say that with the Immaculate Conception. You have wrought that image. We caution that may be, there is a certain helplessness, moreover, while not inapplicable in and of itself, it can lead down a path wherein receptivity becomes the norm. And when that happens, one's agency becomes mute. And then we have what borders on nihilism, where there is nothing. And this is for the adepts. This is not necessarily for everyone. And if it were, there would need to be profound guidance, teaching, for there is an element of psychology that enters in, because there is a deep, deep connection there with DNA structures and knowledge based, which is not necessarily what one should do in one's time. However, you are approaching that era, there is no doubt.
Can you say more about the era we approach?
The era is one of nucleic, the protein structures of matter, the forms with which molecules take, the ruptures of lines. This is, let's see, shall we bring it down to that square with the lines which enter into the center? This is actually a form of a molecule, if you will. Let's take this imagery. Imagine this is yourself. You do this with mandala, you do this with yantra. There are a myriad ways. However, working with the forms themselves, these are the proteins, these are the forms with which the universe manifests. And the ways in which to work with these forms must be calibrated with a spirit knowledge, with an awareness of what you may call Godhead, the source. Without that appreciation of the energy, there could be havoc wrought. And should that be contemplated, there are structures in place to withdraw. We do not mean to be scolding. This is not the wish that we have. However, we would like to reassure you that you shall not play with matches uninhibited.
Appreciate the clarification. Thank you. B, is it, or shall I say, is it time for the vehicle to rest? Indeed. We want to say thank you then to Colum for your advice, help.
Wisdom. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.